All right, folks, let's talk about this economy. Donald Trump keeps claiming everything is great, everything is wonderful. I don't know what in the hell he's talking about. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finance says Americans are drowning in debt. A record-breaking 18.2 trillion, with 77.4% of the families carrying some form of debt. The median household owing over more than $80,000. Then you got these farmers who are complaining that they can't sell their goods, and now they're talking about a possible bailout. Interesting. Benga Ajolore is the chief economist at the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. He previously was an economist with the USDA under Biden-Harris. Glad to have you back on the show. Let's first talk about these farmers. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. As far as I'm concerned, these MAGA farmers who are in Arkansas, in Iowa, Illinois, in Wisconsin, in Indiana, in Pennsylvania, and all these red states, they can all go to hell. They voted for this. And so they got screwed last time. So I'm just trying to understand, did they think the playbook was going to look different this time around?
They did. I think so, because when you look back at the first administration, Trump's trade war was just basically on China, and it was very targeted and narrow. And this kind of trade war, no one expected. We're looking at tariffs on so many different countries, so many different products. And it's not just, certain products that farmers may have been benefited from, but now we have products on tariffs on steel, aluminum, fertilizer. So now their costs are going up. So, I don't want to, blame the farmers too much, because what we're seeing this time, no one expected.
Actually, I will blame them, and they should have listened to Vice President Kamala Harris, because she said it. She literally said what was going to happen. And so all of these people are acting like they're shocked, but this nutcase, he said all this stuff during the campaign. He said it. And this is the crazy thing for me out of all of this. They literally told the people, we're going to do this. Project 2025, all this sort of stuff. But you know what? A lot of people said, well, I didn't really think they meant it. Oh, they did.
That is true. And one of the things that, we just have to deal with is that now that they're in power and they're doing these things, we have to figure out ways to get through this and to help, 'cause some of this stuff is going to impact all of us, not just the farmers. And so that's why we have to focus on some of these problems and try to figure out what is the best way through.
I'll be honest with you. The only way through is for Democrats to get control of the House and or the Senate in 2026 and regain the White House. I keep telling people, buckle down. This is what we're about to deal with in every facet, whether it's a crazy, deranged Department of Justice, whether it's these schizophrenic tariff policy, whether it's the corruption we're seeing, all of these things, we might as well deal with this reality, because this is what they're going to do. Whether we're talking about immigration and the deportations and letting ICE do whatever they want, Donald Trump is unhinged. There's no bottom. There's nothing else. Can't run again despite all their protests saying, oh, he can run 2028. They're going to do whatever they want. So people need to just understand this is what we are about to be dealt with, because the Republican Party is not going to put any restraints on him. And I dare say the only way the Republican Party wakes up is if they lose 20 to 30 seats next year.
Yeah, except the fact is we're still in 2025, and
I know.
We can't wait till 2026. And so that's why, focus on what are the things we can do now. How do you stop them? How do you mitigate to the best of our can to some of these issues and some of these policies?
Okay, how? So give me a couple examples, because they control the White House, they control the House, they control the Senate. You've got the Supreme Court letting Trump do whatever the hell he wants to do. They literally are talking about defying federal judges. So how can they be stopped when they control the whole ball game?
That's a very good question, and I don't have actually a good answer. But what we're seeing now with the shutdown is that the Democrats are trying to use any sort of leverage they can to be able to mitigate some of this harm.
Yeah, but it's going to listen, this continuing resolution is only going to be for a few weeks. We're going to be back at this again. And so this is the only way they can operate. But these folks, listen, this is the problem that I see. The right wing, this has been their wet dream. It has been completely just disrupt, destroy, do whatever to the government. Slash and burn, they don't care. This is what the Heritage Foundation has wanted. This is what Russell Vought has wanted. This is what Stephen Miller has wanted. He does not have anybody with any guardrails, no checks and balances. And so I just need people to understand that they're going to have to prepare themselves mentally and financially for this chaos through until we get to January 2029. And I know people are like, oh my God, Roland, you're crazy, but I don't see anything else happening.
So one of the things that we do see happening is that people are being harmed and people are being impacted, and that might, spur some of the people in Congress to actually take action. So one of the things that we're seeing now is with the healthcare cliff, with the ACA premiums expiring, and so people are looking at their healthcare costs and seeing that they're going to skyrocket, and that's going to have an impact. And then that's what the Democrats are using for leverage to be able to get Congress to act. And so we just have to keep telling the story of people being harmed. Some of the things that we're seeing is with unemployment going up, inflation going up. When the government shutdown ends, we'll start seeing more of that data, and then using that to actually say people are getting harmed. We have to do something about this. And so what's happened earlier this year, why there hasn't been as much pushback as there should be, is that people have been talking about the general economy is okay. But now even that point is even not true.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said after inauguration, actually, I said it after Harris lost to Trump. I said the only way this thing changes is if we see maximum pain to white people. To white people. Maximum pain to white people. Because a lot of these voters, they voted for pain to black people. They voted for the pain to go to brown people. But these people, these farmers, these rural people, they're going to have their health care snatched, their food benefits snatched. They're going to have to see all gas go up, eggs go up, meat go up, all this sort of stuff for them to wake up to go, oh, damn, he did it. And then they're going to have to blame Republicans. And so if Republicans lose, if they lose some key Senate races and lose a bunch of House races, that's the only thing that's going to cause them to say, you know what, maybe we ought to actually be doing our jobs of having government oversight and not let this man just completely say, I'm not going to spend money that Congress has already allocated. And that's part of the issue here, is that the way the founders set this up, they actually thought you would have a Congress that will put the executive branch in check. The problem is they never saw a Congress doing whatever the executive branch wanted and then him browbeating the judicial branch and doing the exact same thing.
That is true. But one thing I want to push back on is that we can't just blame farmers and rural people for what happened in the election. There are a lot of people in cities who did not vote for Harris. And one of the things that we have to focus on is people, look at their tax cuts and the tax provisions. That's kind of one of the things about this healthcare fight, is that the Congress passed the 2017 tax law extension, but they didn't do that for the premium tax enhancements. And so we have to focus on some of those things, and just like, the blame goes all over, not just, farmers and rural people.
Oh, no. Follow me here. I'm speaking specifically. Look, we look at the numbers. We had a decrease in turnout. So Trump, this mandate he claims that he got. But what you saw was, and we could run through it was very simple. North Carolina, Florida. Again, we can go through battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada. We go on and on and on. Arizona. These folks, they said, oh, yeah, I don't like these things, but then I voted for this. Now you got all these comedians. Oh, you got Theo Vaughn. You got Andrew Schultz and others saying, oh, no, we didn't vote for that. We voted for that. And I'm sitting there saying, no. You voted for that because it was all from the same person. It was all the same policies. And so the people, I just had a congresswoman on yesterday from California who sits on one committee, and she had this guy from Mississippi who was appealing to her for help with something. And she said, wait a minute, I'm sorry, why are you coming to me? Go talk to your two senators from Mississippi. And see, that's what I'm saying. These people who now realize that they are getting hurt, they're now trying to come to Democrats saying, oh, please help us out. My problem is that if the Democrats do it, they're not going to benefit from it. I go back to the stimulus bill under Obama. He bailed out Elkhart, Indiana, and he bailed out rural parts of this country, and they still voted against him. They voted against the Democrats. So what they want is they want help when the Republicans screw them, but want the Democrats to help them, but they don't reward the Democrats for helping them. They keep voting for Republicans.
Yeah, and so that's why, you look at what's happening with the shutdown is that they're trying to figure out ways to be able to make sure that the cost in terms of healthcare goes up, doesn't go up for people, and that they're able to push on that. And then also even try to push on to make sure that if they do pass this CR, if they do pass appropriations, that the executive branch is not just going to rescind it. And so that's why we see Democrats fighting for this.
Well, I think it is smart for Democrats to go hard as possible fighting this, because at the end of the day, they're going to get screwed. And listen, the point that I made earlier when I talked about those rural folks who now are realizing this here, well, here's the deal. Donald Trump's approval ratings among rural Americans has actually dropped, and hopefully these people are waking up to now realize what's going on. According to polling by ActiVote, Trump's net approval rating among the demographic of rural Americans declined plus 22 points to plus 14 in September. That's a decrease of 8 points. And this is why I specifically was calling out rural voters. Boom, right here. Rural voters are an important voting bloc and are key to Trump's base. 2024, he won 63% of rural voters, up from 60% in 2020, according to AP Votecast. And this is the whole deal. Those rural voters, more pain has to hit them for them to wake up and realize, what the hell did I do?
And we're seeing that happening with the farmers. We're seeing that may happen with the healthcare costs. We're seeing prices at the grocery store going up. And so everyone's starting to feel this pain. And this is because they have a trifecta. We know who's to blame.
Absolutely. Banga, I appreciate you joining us on the show. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Going to go to a panel when we come back after this break. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the other side of change.
We are talking about our North Star, our luminary, our guide, Assata Shakur, who recently passed away in Cuba. We're going to unpack her legacy.
I refuse to allow Assata's legacy to die before children that aren't even born. Like our babies that aren't even born must know her and must know her. And that roadmap is going to get us closer to liberation.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
Hi, I'm Lavelle Crawford. I ain't wearing a bow tie today because I wanted to breathe. And you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, joining us to talk about this, Dr. Julian Malveaux, economist, president emeritus, Bennett College, author of Surviving and Thriving, 365 Facts in Black Economic History. Rebecca Carruthers, president and CEO, Fair Election Center, both out of D.C. Let's get right to it. I'm going to start with you, Rebecca. I'm going to go to Iowa. You're from one of those red farming states of Nebraska. Go to my iPad. Joni Ernst, United States Senator. She ain't running for re-election. Republicans are like, oh, hell. You look at some of the special elections happening in Iowa. It's some pissed off white folks there in Iowa, and they should be pissed off because they've been getting their asses lit up. And again, the point that I was trying to make there with Banga is real simple. These white people, these rural white folks, they are going to have to feel more pain. And yeah, does it impact black people? Yes. Does it impact Latinos? Yes. Does it impact everybody else? Yes. But these are the people who are holding up Donald Trump's approval rating. They're the ones who are still saying, yeah, he's still my guy. I'm going to need them to get punched in the gut, to get popped in the face, to get hit in the back of the head. I'm going to need them to feel pain in their shins, their ankles, and their knees. The only way these people are going to wake the hell up out of this cult following is for them to be in massive pain.
You know, Roland, on the show, you've talked about these groups of people as if they're in a death cult. And when you're in a death cult, you're willing to die. You really don't care as long as whiteness can be preserved. But to your point, for these farmers, when you think about states like Nebraska, and when you think about Iowa, if you're thinking in sports terms, when you're thinking about the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC West, those are states where there's a lot of corn that's grown. The reason why I'm talking about corn isn't just because I'm from the Cornhusker State, is that every other year when you plant corn, the other years you plant soybeans. You plant soybeans because it helps with the nitrogen balance in the soil. And so if you can't grow soybeans this year, and you can't sell it, so now the soy just rots within the fields. Guess what that means? That means next year you don't have the proper soil balance. So that means you're not going to be able to grow the crops that you normally grow in those intervening years. So this is going to be not just a crash in agricultural parts of America this year, but it's going to be a steadily crash next year, and it's going to devastate those communities. But to your point, if you are locked in a death cult, if you are locked into this thing that is white supremacy, that is literally killing you, it's going to take a major eruption, a major shaking to shake you out of that mindset.
Yeah, real simple. It has to happen, Julian. And bottom line is they got to feel it. They got to feel it every single day.
And they have not felt it yet. But the economy is suggesting that we're cruising for a bruising. So you're not going to feel it today or tomorrow, but hopefully you'll feel it by midterm elections. And if not, we're going to continue to see, as you say, white folks hit, and people who do not believe that fat meat is greasy. What do I mean by that? People told them what was going to happen. Project 2025, which this man disavowed, I don't know anything about it, it's not me, now he's embracing it. But they were told what was going to happen. And that's the ironic thing, and they did not believe it. And so now it's happening. And it's happening in many steps, Roland. I mean, but the shutdown makes it a maxi step. 1.6 million Americans are affected by this government shutdown. 750,000 of them are furloughed. I have my numbers backed up. But a portion are furloughed. And the other portion are working, 750,000 are working without paychecks. Now, they're supposed to get their paychecks when the government goes back. But now this administration is saying, well, you know, maybe not. Maybe we won't give people their paychecks. What we know from the from the Trump administration in 2019, legislation was passed that said when people are laid off and they come back, they get their back pay. So a lot of people were not like that worried. They were worried, of course. Most Americans actually work paycheck to paycheck, but they weren't. So they were like, well, we'll get the money back. You know, maybe we'll take a loan. Maybe the landlord will let us have a couple other weeks. But now he's saying, well, you might get your money and you might not. Recessions do not go by party. It's not a recession that hits just Democrats. And in fact, what we're seeing, as the data you shared and the sister has shared earlier, is that in many states, you have red voters who are going to be much more hard hit. And hopefully they will wake up and smell the coffee, but many of them are still in the Trump sway of, well, he's our guy. What we're going to have to see is when your guy screws you, what you going to do?
Yeah, and here's the reality, Rebecca, right here. Go to my iPad, Antoine. Electricity prices up. Yep, they're up, so the people are paying more. Then while that's happening, this idiot is sitting here snatching grants from airports and others when it comes to air, when it comes to wind, when it comes to solar, even though it's working. Not only that, well, check this out. Same thing. All of these people, who depends more on health care. Look at this. Percentage growth in Affordable Care Act marketplace signups 2020, 2025. Where's the most sign up? Those dark places. Let's see. Arizona, red. Texas, red. Iowa, red. Arkansas, red. Louisiana, red. Mississippi, red. Alabama, red. Georgia, red. South Carolina, red. Tennessee, red. West Virginia, red. Ohio, red. Indiana, red. And this is what I don't understand, Rebecca. If I'm Democrats, I'm going at the heart. If I'm Ken Martin of the DNC, if I'm Chuck Schumer, if I'm Jeffries, I'm going at the heart of these folks saying, hey, y'all really love y'all some Affordable Care Act. Y'all are the sickest, you're the brokest, you're the whitest, you're the most illiterate places in the country. Y'all really need the Affordable Care Act. Go at the heart. I'm saying, Bernie Sanders, take your ass to these red places. Elizabeth Warren, AOC, go to these red states. You got to go there and literally get on those local television stations and radio stations and newspapers and say, y'all ass is sick. And you're voting against your own interest.
Roland, it's a sickness, but also you mentioned electricity. We also got to mention water. We have to talk about what's happening in the utilities. And that's before we get to that new healthcare bill that people are going to get in the mail within the next few weeks. And so when we think about the utilities, especially in that map that you showed, especially in those darker areas, those are also states where there is a deregulation, meaning that there isn't an actual regulatory system that makes sure that people aren't getting price gouged. So using the example of Texas, whenever Texas has some type of bad weather, whether it's an icy storm or there's a hurricane coming, all of a sudden people's electricity doubles, triples, quadruples, goes up into the thousands, because the way electricity is metered in Texas is that it's not set. It's determined upon the market. The reason why people should be concerned about that, you've talked about some of the data centers that are showing up all over the country. We hear about the environmental racism that happens with the data centers, for instance, as in South Memphis, but there's also beyond the environmental racism, there's the cost for utilities. Virtually everyone in this country, compared to last year, doing year-over-year analysis, their electricity has went up. When we look at the state of Minnesota, they just decided to privatize their electric utility, which means that once it's privatized, once we remove some of the regulations, those costs are going to continue to skyrocket. I know people love to make their cat videos using AI, but each time you do that, that costs about 6 bottles of water. So now we have to talk about how water utilities are also going to go up. So it's not just that food prices at the pump, that agrarian produce and all that stuff is going up. And that's before you start dealing with the downstream, with the manufacturing and processed foods. Now your electricity is going up. Your water is going up. And on top of everything, your goddamn healthcare is getting ready to go up.
Well, now I showed you those dark colors, the colors that are right below them. Back to my iPad. Let's see. Florida, red. Missouri, red. Michigan, went for Trump. Kansas, red. Utah, red. So the dominant places that are so dependent upon the Affordable Care Act are all these places that voted for Donald Trump. Ain't that something? Got to go to break. We come back. We're going to talk about what's happening in Florida, where these ignorant, crazy, right-wing conservatives are trying to force every state university, including Florida A&M, to erect monuments to Charlie Kirk or risk losing their state funding. We'll talk to a Florida State Senator next. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars are critically important for us to do the work. The goal is to raise $1 million between now and the end of the year for the projects that we are launching, folks. If you want, we got a new daily show we're launching, a midday news show. We got a weekly show we're launching. Also, we're completely changing blackstarnetwork.com to be a news portal. And so your support is critical. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it bottom right, left-hand corner. Use that for also credit cards. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money orders, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
Next on The Black Table with me, Craig Carr. A reminder that there is always more to a story than meets the eye. From book bannings, growing censorship in our classrooms, and the loss of basic human rights, the actual motivations behind those actions and others paint an even more troubling picture than most of us realize.
What we need to do is bring this issue front and center to the table, because the alternative is that we'll just go down slow, which is no way to go down.
Master historian and educator Dr. Gerald Horne joins us again, and we take a deep dive into the truths behind the headlines of the day and how we might be able to turn the tide. That's on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
What's up, everybody? It's Godfrey, the funniest dude on the planet. And you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Well, these deranged white conservatives doing all they can to turn Charlie Kirk into a saint. Of course, he was shot and killed last month, speaking of Utah. Now in Florida, the Republican state rep wants every public university to rename certain campus roads after Kirk. Yeah. Kevin Steele's bill would also withhold state funding from any university that does not comply within 90 days of the law's passage. Not happening just in Florida. Similar bills are popping up across the country as part of a wave of memorial efforts for Kirk. Yeah. Florida State Senator Chevron Jones joins us right now. I'm glad to have you on the show. This is just insane. This particular bill, you know, what they want to do and say, oh, universities do not comply, we're going to pull funding. I'm sorry, Charlie Kirk is not worthy of a memorial on every public university campus in Florida or anywhere else in this country.
Yeah. Well, first, Roland, I'm going to say, like my nephews say it, I always say to tell the state of Florida to stop capping. I'll tell you why. The Representative Steele filing this bill and not even having a Senate companion yet. But I do know Florida very well. And so I know that now that the bill has been filed, eventually something probably will come. But the Senate president has told us that he does not want a culture war. And it's no secret that this is an absolute overreach. And for decades, the universities have made their own naming decision. Nobody from Tallahassee or the governor's office have ever stepped into this process. And I've been in this process for 13 years. Now, suddenly they want to force institutions to name roads after Charlie Kirk. And just clear, it's not policy. And I'll be honest with you, it's absolute political theater. And so let's be clear, that we made it clear in the Democratic caucus, and we said it today, even in the press conference, that violence is never acceptable. And we should all condemn it. But dying violently doesn't erase a man's record. Charlie Kirk, as we know, he built a career off of the race baiting, off of mocking Black folks, and off of spreading division. Now, here's what I will say, Roland. As a FAMU graduate, it is an absolute slap in the face to the #1 HBCU within this country. So now you're telling that if we don't name a particular road after Charlie Kirk, now we risk getting funding. And so, yes, as a proud graduate, I mean, the names of those roads that are on FAMU's campus, now that you want us to change, they honor the people who built that legacy through the blood, sweat, and tears. People who made sure students like me could walk those grounds with pride. And so I can tell you that we're going to fight like hell in the Senate, because we met with we're meeting with the Senate president as not just as a Black caucus, but as a Democratic caucus, because we were able to stop a lot of these bills last year. And we are going to try to do the same this session. The problem is if Donald Trump gets into the ear of the leadership of these chambers, the game is over. They're going to push this all the way through and as far as they can.
Yeah, and so now the question is, will MAGA appoint presidential appointee Marva, the woman who's president of Florida A&M, is she going to have the courage to tell them, y'all, that is not a good idea on my campus?
Well, Roland, I don't know if you heard, but you see that, I'm sure you know that you have this Blexit that's about to go across the country to HBCU homecomings, and they'll be here at Florida A&M on the 17th. I have not spoken to President Johnson as of yet, but I do know, and I don't know if you all remember, but a year before last, in the bill that was filed, which was the Stop Woke Act, it prevented that any institution that stops any diverse conversations of happening on their college campus, you are now in violation of the law. And so the question now becomes, if these universities push back on this, are they violating the law? And I could be honest with you, the Student Government Association president and the faculty and staff at Florida A&M University, they have now gotten wind of this and have made the clarion call to the legislature to make it clear that they do not want this on their campus. And I'm hoping that President Johnson, where I sit on her transition team, and I'm sure that this is a conversation that we would love to engage in. And what does this look like in us moving forward with this type of legislation on a predominantly Black campus, when we know what this man has said about Black people, and more particularly Black women?
Well, certainly in the case of this Florida bill, they're talking about a street. In Oklahoma, this guy literally wants a memorial plaza on every state campus, and that would include Langston University.
But Roland, I think we need to understand what's happening right now. Yeah, I call these fight-picking bills. Although real, these are fight-picking bills because they don't want to talk. I mean, I just listened to your last segment, and the last segment is absolutely true as it pertains to an affordability crisis that we're having here. We look at what's happening in Florida. Florida has the highest car insurance rates in the country, where people already can't afford their property insurance, but yet still we're filing a bill when it comes to Charlie Kirk, someone who would not give a damn about or would not spit on me if I was on fire. And now we're talking about this being the top of our legislative session that starts in January, when people can't even damn live. Come on, I think, and as I share with our leading caucus, our chair this past week, is that we have to start doing, as you just said, start hitting them on the affordability issues. Stop playing patty cake with these Republicans, because they are not coming to this fight just fighting with fire. They are coming with big guns, and we need to be doing the same and fight fire with fire. The time out for playing nice. I think we need to go in guns blazing this legislative session, because they're coming for it, because this is a legislative year, and surprise, surprise, the polling is down in Florida.
Julian, it really is some silly stuff that we're seeing these folks do, but they want the culture war. They want this battle.
More so than the economic war, Roland. That's the issue. This man came in here saying, I'm going to fix the economy. I'm going to fix the economy. He did not fix the economy. Instead, he's waded in the waters of a culture war. How dare they? If every Florida university had to name something, they ought to name it after Rosewood. There'd be a Rosewood Avenue. Rosewood Drive, to talk about what happened to Black people in Rosewood. Instead, this fool and his minions, who all drink some kind of weird Kool-Aid, are saying every state university in Florida should name something after Charlie. Who was Charlie Kirk? Why do we want to name stuff after him? Why do we want to canonize a man who said that Black women were stupid, that we did not have the mental capacity to do anything? I mean, every time I think about it, I first get angry and then I get resilient. But I first get, because it's like drinking out of a damn, excuse my language, water hose. You drink out of water, every day they have some stupidity that they're doing with Pam Bondi, with her, I mean, forgive my ignorance, but do they have like a clone factory where all these white women get their lips pumped up and the hair extended? I'm just asking. I don't know the answer to that, but they all look alike. They look like Melania. That's another story.
It's all, Rebecca, at the end of the day, this is a part of the strategy. And listen, what we talk about this stupid-ass Blexit coming to campus, what they want is they want the moments to go viral. Hey, I think here to me is what happens. You have Florida State, so you be at Florida A&M or any of the HBCU. Mm-hmm. You completely ignore them, literally. You tell students, totally ignore them. Walk right past them. You ignore them because what they want, when those white boys went to Tennessee State, they wanted the reaction. That's what they desired. Then they can go on all these conservative talk shows and podcasts, raise money, and trash these HBCUs. You ignore them. That's what you do.
This isn't the first time this type of cabal tried to show up on campuses and target HBCUs. And guess what? We didn't really hear anything out of it. I don't think this is going to be anything different. I think they're trying to sensationalize things. I think they're trying to get attention, like you said, it's for clicks and views. But talking about the renaming of things, here's the thing about Black folks. For us, joy is resistance, resilience and rest is also resistance. But here's one thing that I know when it comes to naming conventions, we're going to call a thing what we're going to call it, regardless what somebody else says, which is why over half of us have nicknames and no one knows us by our government names, or the reason why we call all facial tissue Kleenex, regardless of the brand. At the end of the day, we're going to do what we want.
Roland, here's what I'll tell you. It took them 7 years. We voted for a slavery memorial 7 years ago. It took them 7 years for them to put that slavery memorial up. It just got up 2 months ago. And it's amazing to me that for 7 years, you're saying that if you don't put up a damn sign in 90 days, you lose your state funding. Now talk about that. And let's talk about where's the fairness in that. It never existed in the state of Florida.
Indeed, indeed. All right, State Senator Jones, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Problem.
All right, folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about Trump going after the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois. Also, talk about Representative Hakeem Jeffries had a war of words with Representative Mike Lawler of New York. We'll show you that. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Craig Carr. A reminder that there is always more to a story than meets the eye. From book bannings, growing censorship in our classrooms, and the loss of basic human rights, the actual motivations behind those actions and others paint an even more troubling picture than most of us realize.
What we need to do is bring this issue front and center to the table, because the alternative is that we'll just go down slow, which is no way to go down.
Master historian and educator Dr. Gerald Horne joins us again, and we take a deep dive into the truths behind the headlines of the day and how we might be able to turn the tide. That's on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen Shutdown.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Phil Thompson with winwithblackmen.org. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The 34-count criminally convicted felon in chief, he's saying Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker should be behind bars. Really? This idiot posted this on social media. Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Trump posted. Governor Pritzker also. Pritzker said, I won't back down. Trump is now calling for the arrest of elected representatives, checking his power. What else is left on the path to full-blown authoritarianism? Here's how Chicago Mayor Johnson responded. This is not the first time Trump has tried to have a black man unjustly arrested. I'm not going anywhere. The exchange followed Mayor Johnson's executive order prohibiting ICE and other federal agencies from using city property for civil immigration enforcement, and Illinois' lawsuit seeking to block Trump's deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops to Chicago, a move a federal judge immediately halted. But not only that, y'all, then you have this idiot out of Texas, Greg Abbott, who is sending troops from Texas to Illinois. Now, keep in mind, this is the same Greg Abbott who sent undocumented workers to Illinois. So just so we can keep up, Greg Abbott is sending Texas troops to Illinois to deal with the issue of undocumented workers that he sent to Illinois. I hope y'all are keeping up. That's how stupid these people are. That's how dumb they are. Then you got Ice Barbie, okay, who ain't the brightest bulb in the dark room. She also said stupid stuff like this.
In Chicago, we had a 10-car caravan trail our ICE officials and pin them down. And those ICE officials, to get out of their vehicles, a woman tried to ram them and run them over, and shots were fired to get them to safety. So it's happening on a regular basis, and any elected official that allows this to happen and gives cover to those kind of individuals who are perpetuating murder should absolutely be prosecuted.
She's lying. She's lying, and they are very good at that. They lie and they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie. And so this is just what they do. Here's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson speaking on this issue on CNN. Watch this.
If he was serious about safety, he would not have defunded a program of $800 million that was geared towards violence prevention. He cut the ATF budget by 30%. He has defunded our education system. He has defunded our transportation system. He is firing black women across this country. He's defunding our healthcare system. This president is absolutely out of control, and it's incumbent upon all of us. If there was ever a time for working people to unite in this country, now is that time. And the city of Chicago is going to stand firm in protecting humanity and protecting and defending our democracy.
You know, Rebecca, a lot of people were giving California Governor Gavin Newsom credit, and still are, for how he is firing back at Trump. Well, guess what? Mayor Brandon Johnson is doing one hell of a job as well, properly laying the foundation and speaking directly to the issues as to what these idiots are doing.
You know, and it's very important to see the mayor speaking up and telling people, between he and Governor Pritzker, telling folks, make sure you're recording everything. The reason why that's so important is next month is the start of the 60th anniversary of the Nuremberg trials. And there's going to be an account. There's going to be liability for what's happening now during this period. But people can't just post this stuff on social media. People are going to have to hold these records, because these are going to be the very records that are going to be used when it's time to have the legal reckoning for what's happening now. As we're watching this administration work outside of the Constitution, we watch this administration say things such as the president has plenary powers, aka ultimate authority, even usurping the Constitution. So there's going to be a legal reckoning that's going to come out of this.
Absolutely, Juliana, and they're just saying crazy stuff what they're doing, and what is insane when we look at what's happening here. Now they're considering the Insurrection Act because he wants to send troops everywhere. That's what they're doing. And so it's like what the hell are y'all doing? He wants to see these troops on the streets of America because he wants to be a strong man.
You know, this is such absurdity when you think about the many times that troops have gone to the streets. We've seen it before. We've seen it, Little Rock. But this is a manufactured crisis. This is not a crisis of any sort. It's manufactured. And what they continue to do is say the same thing over and over and over again. And those of us, and I say us, who don't selectively look at their news, they're not looking at Roland Martin Unfiltered. They're not looking at The Root. They're looking at this crap that keeps repeated, and then they'll repeat it back to you. And so when you see what's going on, I mean, this whole notion of canonizing Charlie Kirk and requiring Florida universities to do streets after him, the whole notion of lying, as you said, lying is what they specialize in. But the challenge with their lies is that there are few, Roland, who are willing to refute them. And so they put it out there, and this Congress knows better. What bothers me the most about anything, I love Hakeem, I love my Democrats, some of them, but many of these Republicans know better. When even Marjorie Taylor Greene says, wait a minute, some of my constituents are going to lose their health care. When even Marjorie Taylor Greene says, wait a minute, why are the rest of them silent? And so we're looking at a situation where I'm speechless because I'm trying not to use a lot of profanity. You do, and I'm trying not to. In my old age, I'm trying to give up profanity. Oh, well. But this insanity of going after, of what's going on, this insanity has gone unchecked. I mean, unchecked. And that's a challenge, is the way that this nonsense has been unchecked. So when we look at what's happening in Florida, was Chicago. But bless you, Mayor Brandon, and bless you, Governor Pritzker.
But here's the whole deal here. This is how Mayor Johnson responded to Texas Governor Greg Abbott sending those troops to Chicago.
The governor of Texas should be worrying about Texas. Why he all up in my business? Focus on Texas. The minimum wage in Texas is $7.25. The life expectancy in Texas is lower than Chicago. The governor of Texas spent $200 million that should be going towards raising the minimum wage in Texas, that should be going towards making sure that life expectancy is not cut off. $200 million to bus migrants to cities across America. He dealt with a storm where 700 people died. Whatever his understanding is, clearly he doesn't understand how to make sure that workers have a livable wage. He doesn't understand how to make sure that life expectancy is not cut off because you're poor. He certainly does not understand how to deal with a crisis where 700 people died in a storm. $200 million of Texan tax dollars that went towards busing migrants.
That's how you respond, Rebecca.
Absolutely. You respond with facts because he's creating a public record. Because what's unfortunate, when we look at some of the corporate media, they're not properly reporting on what's happening. Instead, they see this trumped up White House presser, and you see the faux outrage of, we don't know why the Mayor Johnson has an issue with us. And then you see the very impassioned Mayor Johnson. And a lot of people are left wondering, well, hey, what's really going on? Why is he on a 10 when they're on a 3? And so it's very important for him to provide that data, those facts. So when his press conferences breaks through the algorithm online, people are actually informed and they understand what's happening. Because what's very unfortunate is this White House refuses to tell the truth, but this White House is also intentionally lying and misguiding Americans in this country. And we really need for people of goodwill to understand what's happening. Because one thing that we know, even though about 2/3 of the world is under authoritarian rule, we know it only takes 2.5% of a population to disrupt and stop authoritarianism. That is about 9 million folks in this country. If we could get 9 million people in this country to stand up, get involved, be informed, that is enough to stop this.
Yep, absolutely. And so it's a whole lot going on here. All right, going to a quick break. We come back. Government shutdown continues. And, man, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries goes at it with a fellow congressman, Republican from New York. We'll show you what happened in the halls of Congress. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change,
we are talking about our star, our luminary, our guide, Assata Shakur, who recently passed away in Cuba. We're going to unpack her legacy.
I refuse to allow Assata's legacy to die before children that aren't even born. Like, our babies that aren't even born must know her and must know her. And that roadmap is going to get us closer to liberation.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. A reminder that there is always more to a story than meets the eye. From book bannings, growing censorship in our classrooms, and the loss of basic human rights, the actual motivations behind those actions and others paint an even more troubling picture than most of us realize.
What we need to do is bring this issue front and center to the table, because the alternative is that we'll just go down slow, which is no way to go down.
Master historian and educator Dr. Gerald Horne joins us again, and we take a deep dive into the truths behind the headlines of the day and how we might be able to turn the tide. That's on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
This is Eric Dickerson, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Government shutdown continues, and man, if things get a little spicy in the halls of Congress. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries held his daily news conference. We carried it right here on the Black Star Network. So Republican Mike Lawler of New York decided to confront Jeffries. This is how that went.
Your extension. Why don't we sign on right now?
Let me ask you a question. Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald Trump?
Easily extend
Did your boss, Donald Trump, give you permission? Yes, he is.
No, he's not. By the way,
so let me ask you a question.
Why did you vote to shut the government down? Why did you vote to shut it down?
Let me ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to make yourself relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to this.
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
You could sign on to this. The only
You're
embarrassing
chasing
here is
clout. You're an embarrassment.
You could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
It's a clean extension for 1 year.
You voted for the one big ugly bill, correct?
I voted for a tax cut bill that gave the largest tax cut to Americans in history, including, by the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
Do you want to cut the standard deduction in half?
The largest cut to Medicaid in American history. You voted for that.
Fraud and abuse, by the way.
You voted
Tom DiNapoli, the Democratic controller of New York,
let me ask you a question.
Pointed out that $1.2 billion were wasted.
Listen, you're not going to talk to me. You're not going to talk to me and talk over me because you don't want to hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm listening.
So why don't you just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you showed up. You showed up, and so you voted for this one big ugly bill.
You can extend it right now.
A permanent extension of massive tax breaks for your billionaire donors.
So 90% of Americans.
So they can get a permanent.
Meanwhile, new legal challenges are brewing against these maggots for the languages posting on federal websites and in government emails accusing Democrats of causing the shutdown. The Department of Agriculture's website currently features this message. The radical left Democrats shut down the government. The government website will be updated periodically during the funding lapses for mission-critical functions. Trump has made it clear, y'all know I don't call him president. Trump has made it clear he wants to keep the government open and support those who feed, fuel, and clothe the American people. Yeah, they don't care about the Hatch Act. They really don't care. Washington State Congressman Adam Smith joins us right now. Congressman Smith, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And what we saw there, that exchange between Jeffries and Lawler, frankly, that needs to happen with more Democrats. I remember when Jamal Bowman was in Congress, and a lot of Democrats who were really upset when he confronted some Republicans in the hall. What I am hearing from people all across the country, and I travel all across this country, they are saying they want to see some fight, some gusto from Democrats in challenging these MAGA Republicans every day.
Yeah, no, I think that's happening. You're seeing Democrats all across the country. You've seen it for a year now, calling out the authoritarian approach to governing that Donald Trump has taken, a budget that, as Hakeem pointed out, has gutted health care in favor of tax cuts for the wealthy, his illegal tariffs that are driving up costs on everyday Americans, his freezing of spending across the country without any legal authority to do so. So I think you've seen that. You've seen that fight. We have to stick to it. We have to be united, and we have to stand together right now more than ever, because we have drawn a line in the sand on the budget bill right now, on continuing the Trump budget, and said, no, we're not going to do that unless you make some changes. And I think we all need to stand united in that fight. I applaud Hakeem for standing up. I think it's ridiculous of Mike Lawler to show up and accost Hakeem and just shout, just talk over him, never listen to anything he has to say, just try to berate him and bully him. And I agree with Hakeem. That's embarrassing. Mike Lawler is an absolute embarrassment if he thinks that's the way we ought to have conversations. He wants to make a point, make the point. Then, forgive me, shut the fuck up and let Hakeem say something instead of just talking over him constantly.
I agree 1,000%. And when I said I had a Democratic strategist on here, Ashley Etienne, who said, hey, Democrats shouldn't go to the mat on this. I said, no, you have to. I said, force them to have to defend this and expose the reality of these red state voters who are desperately depending on health care. And I said, Democrats got to stop bailing these folks out who are never going to vote for them anyway. They have to put it up there every day and say, you're going to lose your health care because of these idiots, and you got to force them to have to own that.
Yeah, well, I think we have to have the debate and say, look, the Trump budget guts your health care, drives up your prices, and is going to take millions of people off of health care. Frankly, I don't care if these people are red state, blue state, whoever they are. We're talking about millions of Americans who are going to lose their health care insurance. And understand something. For the tens of millions of Americans who aren't going to lose their health insurance, this still costs you. Because the more people who don't have insurance, the more uncompensated care has to be provided, and more health care goes up for everyone. So knocking all these people off of health care is going to cause rural hospitals to close. It's going to cause community health care clinics to close. Don't think that this is just going to impact those people who see their premiums go up and lose their health insurance. It's going to impact everybody who's trying to buy health care. And I think we ought to drive that point home and forward. I don't think we should, focus and blame the red state people for one thing or another. We should just lay the facts out to them about what is going to happen from a policy perspective that's going to impact them. And I think Hakeem and others have been doing a damn good job of that.
Congressman, here's why I disagree with why I think it has to be specific to red states. I'm born and raised in Texas. I'm still a registered voter in Texas. I spent a ton of time on the road. I was in Louisiana speaking to Louisiana State Conference, the NAACP, on Saturday. Again, MAGA Governor Jeff Landry. I got to deal with Greg Abbott in Texas. I spent lots of time in Georgia and all these other different places. And here's what I have been saying, and I said this directly to President Obama when he was there. I think what Democrats have done, Democrats have played nice discussing health care. Obama used to go to the suburbs of Ohio and Virginia and Maryland discussing it. And I said to him, and I said to Valerie Jarrett, I said, take this thing to the whitest, reddest, sickest parts of the country and literally say, I passed this bill for you. Go to my iPad, Antoine. This is the percentage of growth of Affordable Care Act marketplace sign-ups in the last 5 years. The dark portions are the places with the most sign-ups. South Carolina, red. Georgia, red. Alabama, red. Mississippi, red. Louisiana, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Arizona, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, all red. The second group, Florida, Missouri, Kansas, Utah, Michigan, all red. Michigan, of course, went for Trump as well. The reason I'm saying this is that I get that. But I think one of the mistakes that Democrats make is not specifically saying to folks in red states, hey, you may not realize it, but you're one of the sickest states in the country. You need health care. You need these SNAP benefits, and you should be asking your 2 U.S. senators and your congressmen why they're voting against you. A lot of these folks don't think it's them. They think, oh, it's hurting those people. It's hurting them. It's like, no. It's hurting you.
Yes, we have to make that case. No question. We have to make it broadly, and we certainly have to make the case to people whose votes we have not yet gotten. And I think you're right. You go to red states, go to states that have voted for Republicans. We have to convince them that they should change where they're at. And I think pointing out to them the impacts of those policies makes sense. I just want to be very careful about not being condescending to them and implying that somehow they don't know what's in their best interests. I think we have to make the case that this is the impact and open our tent wide enough to welcome them back in.
Well, as somebody who's, again, born and raised, Howard Dean said this in 2004. He said Republicans use God, gays, and guns to deflect. Obama talked about folks loving their guns and their religion. Republicans lost their minds. But so the reality is Republicans use culture wars to appeal to their base that gets their eyes off of the economic issues. And see, listen, I get Republicans. I go on shows. Republicans go, well, black voters, why are black people voting against their interests? What have you gotten from the Democratic Party? And I'm like, what have broke white people gotten from the Republican Party by keep voting for them and voting against their interests? And then all of a sudden they look at me and I say, wait a minute, if Republican policies are so great that you want black people to vote for them, why are most black people in red states? And I said, why are those red states some of the brokest? It's amazing when they get real quiet when you hit them with that. I'm not saying, I use data. I'm like, I'm sorry, you want to argue with me, but healthcare, education, economics, red states at the bottom, blue counties represent, say you're from 71% of America's GDP comes from blue counties. Math, that math is mathing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge part of the argument we have to make, and I will agree with the upfront point. We got to be really aggressive about it. What Trump is doing certainly is a threat to our democracy, but is also a threat to our economic well-being, and is specifically a threat to the working class in this country. The people who most need help right now, as wealth has been concentrated, are being hurt by Trump's policy.
One of the things that we also are seeing, obviously, they have no problem being hypocritical. But how do you respond to Speaker Mike Johnson? Literally, okay, we lost the congressman there. I don't know what happened there, so y'all let me know when we get him back. But we'll wait to get him back. Rebecca, I'll go to you. This thing, it infuriates me, Rebecca, when Democrats are not as aggressive in literally saying, you have the worst education, the worst health care, the worst economic outcomes. Why you keep voting for these cats who love to fund billionaires?
Roland, in 2009, I worked for Congressman John Dingell on the Hill, and I worked in the Affordable Care Act. And so listening to that exchange reminded me of some of the internal conversations and debates. And the issue was Democrats lost the messaging. The messaging is very simple when it comes to to Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. It's that insurers, they know up to 20, 50 years what the actuarial rates are, i.e. how much they're going to charge folks based upon life expectancy and outcomes. They already know what those numbers are. Those numbers are going to skyrocket. They're not going to just go at a slant like this, but they're going to go up like this. So the point of the ACA was to slow this down to this, so American consumers aren't paying 5,000% over the next 10 years of what their current insurance premium is. That's how you talk about it. You talk about, hey, this industry is causing prices to skyrocket. We're trying to slow that down for you because we want to make sure with your private insurance, you're able to go to the hospital, but you're also able to do preventative care where you can avoid the emergency room if possible, but you can do routine care with a primary care provider. That's how you have to talk about it. And explaining it is not condescension. Like to me, I'm a little taken aback to hear a member of Congress say, hey, if we explain public policy to people in terms in which they understand, they may not like us doing that. But guess what? People need to know what's happening in this country because then voters are actually empowered.
This happened today. 2 Arizona senators jammed up Speaker Mike Johnson saying, why are you not seating a duly elected Democrat? And Mike Johnson keeps trying to say, oh, no, it has nothing to do with Epstein. We know he lying because he appointed 2 Republicans during a pro forma session. They're in a pro forma session right now. What's the problem? I love this exchange. Again, this is how you challenge these folks. Watch it.
Reopen the government so we get back to work.
I mean, but this excuse just keeps on moving.
It's
not great if you want representation. Last week there's 750.
Wait, let me answer the question. We're happy that she got elected. She's filling her father's seat. That's fantastic. We have a long tradition here and a process of how we administer the oath to a member. You know, he served here for a while. We're going to do that as soon as we get back to work, but we need the lights turned back on, so we encourage both of you to go open the government.
Didn't we
so
do
we
that
get
with the
everybody back to regular
Virginia
session?
Republican swore the person in under the same circumstance?
The exception is there were 2 Floridians who were elected in a special election. This happened a couple months back. They were here on a day, they had their families here, they had a scheduled day for the oath of office, and the House was called out of session that day. They had all their family and friends here, so we went ahead and went through the process. And
with all due
let me
respect,
finish. Wait, let me answer the question if you're going to ask it. And so that was the exception we did because the family was here. Ms. Grijalva, Rep-elect Grijalva, has not yet had a scheduled date because she was elected after the House was out of session. So I am anxious to administer the oath to her.
How much is this
as soon as you guys
just
vote
don't
to
want
open the
her to
government.
be on the Epstein. You don't want her to be on the Epstein discharge. How much?
It's totally absurd. You guys are experts at red herrings and distractions.
Moving along.
No, no, it has nothing to do with Epstein. The House Oversight Committee is working on the Epstein files right now, releasing 34,000 pages and more on the way.
You know she's key to that
Let me finish. The House Oversight Committee.
Representative Smith back. Representative Smith, I was playing that video. It's laughable that the speaker won't seat a duly elected Democrat to the House when he literally did this to 2 Republicans. Like we're not stupid, Congressman.
Yeah, no, look, there is no defending that. And the other thing that Mike Johnson has done in this process that I hope we pay attention to, we've had government shutdowns before. I've been through, I think, 4 of them. Every single shutdown we've had, Congress has stayed in session and kept working. You know, Mike Johnson's trying to spread this fiction that somehow, because we have a government shutdown, Congress can't be in session.
Right.
That's a complete lie. We're always in session. In fact, with a government shutdown, we need to be in session even more because we got to fix the problem.
Because what he gave, what last week? He's like, oh, give him a week off.
Right. No, and I think part of the effort is, as Ruben and Mark were saying there, to block the seating of a duly elected member of Congress, which is, again, an authoritarian way to run the government. We should be back in session. We should, for a whole bunch of different reasons, but certainly one of them is to seat a duly elected member of Congress.
Well, it is ridiculous that that's not happening. I had to deal with Texas Governor Greg Abbott refusing to call a special election after my fraternity brother and dear friend, Representative Sylvester Turner, passed away. And so the 18th Congressional District has been left without a representative for literally 9 months. And the election is going to be in November. And here you have this case where they actually have an election, and Johnson's like, yeah, no, we're just going to wait till we're back in session to swear her in. Oh, when the Republicans, they had their families here. And it's like, okay, so what if she brings her family here? Well, no, that's different. It's just nonsensical. But this is where and I'm telling you, Representative Smith, I spend tons of time on the road. What people are saying is keep the pressure on them. Do not relent. They're saying offense. Stay in their faces, stay on the offense, because that's what's resonating with people, because they're saying they need somebody to fight as opposed to being on the defensive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And this gives us that opportunity. They need our votes in the Senate to move their agenda forward. So this is our opportunity to fight, have leverage, and stand up. And we've been doing that. And I hope people recognize that. And it's not that I don't think that a shutdown causes some pain. It does. But that pain is being caused by the Republicans' unwillingness to negotiate with us and to move forward a reasonable budget. We don't have to vote for their budget just because they threaten us. We need to stand up and fight back against it and push our priorities, like health care.
2 quick questions. Julian Mavo, your question for Congressman Smith.
Congressman, the failure to swear in Representative Grijalva, the failure to swear her in doesn't change very much, but it does deal with the issues of democracy and representation. What can Democrats do to push Lil Johnson, to the point where he is forced to swear this woman in? Her district is now being unrepresented. So please tell me, what can you do?
Well, I think what Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallagher were doing there, shine a light on it, bring attention to it. Describe it exactly as you just did. This is a impediment to democracy, not to seat a sitting member of Congress. I think we have to shine a bright light on it and talk about it as often as we can, and force them to own what they're doing. That's what we can do. And what we need to do is message strongly on it, because I'm quite confident that 80-90% of the American people would not agree with the House of Representatives blocking the seating of a duly elected member of Congress of a district in this country. Those constituents in that district in Arizona deserve to be represented. They voted, they picked their representative. They are being disenfranchised in violation of the Constitution. And I think we need to make that case loudly and aggressively.
Rebecca.
Congressman, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. So we know there is early voting that's happening in this country right now, and it's largely local and some state elections. But right behind that is the race to the midterms. In your words, why should America vote for the Democrats to take back the House in 2026?
Because we believe in standing up for working people, and we recognize that the fundamental challenge our country faces right now is the concentration of wealth. Too many people are struggling every day to pay their bills. The Trump agenda is moving us in the wrong direction. His tariffs, his spending cuts, his cuts to Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act are driving up costs on the American people. The cost of health insurance, the cost of energy, the cost of food, the cost of housing are all going up under his policies. We need to reverse that and change that. And we need to get back to the agenda that was reflected in the Build Back Better agenda, an agenda that was going to help Americans struggling to pay for child care, for education, for health care, while placing taxes on the wealthy who have benefited from this concentration of wealth to pay for it, and also getting prescription drug costs under control by forcing the big pharma companies to negotiate with Medicare. That will save us hundreds of billions of dollars and will help pay for those priorities. Democrats want to help working people. The Republicans want to help billionaires and also undermine our democracy. And I do think we should make this case. I know kitchen table issues are what drives it for the most part, but I think people should be concerned about the fact that we have a president who's sending ICE agents into neighborhoods to terrorize people who have committed no crimes. I think we should be concerned about a president who is using the U.S. military to do domestic law enforcement. We should be concerned about a president who's starting a war with Venezuela with absolutely no legal authority to do so. On issue after issue, our fundamental rights as Americans are at risk. Democrats will stand up for those rights and will deliver economic opportunity for the working class. That's our message, and that's what we ought to go to work on.
All right, Congressman Adam Smith, we appreciate it. Keep up the fight.
Thanks, Roland. Thanks for the chance. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, we come back. The Root now back to being under black ownership. We'll talk with the owner next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support the work that we do. What we do here every day, nobody else is doing, folks. We talk about this a daily news show focusing on African Americans where we are centered. We're focusing on that. In addition to that, we are launching new products as well. We got 4 weekly shows. We're launching another one, a daily show. A lot of stuff happening. Your support is critical for us to do that. And so, we're looking forward to a huge 2026, traveling the country, covering stories all across the nation, covering these races. If you want to support us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here, bottom left-hand corner. You use that for credit cards as well. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money orders, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we talk about the principles of mindset, strategy, and execution. This week, we're adding a fourth, faith. You're going to hear from a mother and daughter duo who are helping thousands of Black women build wealth, all through their faith.
You are more than you can ever imagine. Not just obtaining things to show that, but seeing yourself.
Making your faith work for you. That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
we are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
We are talking about our star, our luminary, our guide, Assata Shakur, who recently passed away in Cuba. We're going to unpack her legacy.
I refuse to allow Assata's legacy to die before children that aren't even born. Like our babies that aren't even born must know her and must know her. And that roadmap is going to get us closer to liberation.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Michael McMillan, President and CEO of the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The digital website The Root was founded 17 years ago by Henry Louis Skip Gates Jr. and Donald Graham, owner of the Washington Post. It's a platform for black culture, politics, and social commentary. Now, Gates had a minority ownership interest in that. Then, of course, it went through other owners. Univision owned it, and then there's a white private equity company owned it. Now it is black-owned. CNN commentator, former Biden White House official Ashley Alison has acquired the digital media outlet through her company, Watering Hole Media. She joins us right now. Ashley, glad to have you on the show. First off, why?
Thanks for having me, Roland.
Why? Why'd you want to get The Root?
Well, most people don't know this, but I was actually a journalism major in college. And so when I started Watering Hole Media in 2009, it actually was not a copycat, but it was inspired by The Root. The Root is something that I've always read. I've always found to be inspirational. That Root 100 list was always something I desired to be on, but I also studied people that were on that list about ways to get into politics, get into social justice. And I think in this moment, we need to own our own media. Black people need to be able to tell our own stories, just like you do every day on this network.
And you talked about Watering Hole Media. You were doing these various videos on your YouTube channel. But obviously, moving to this is different. And so walk us through how you arrived at that point where you said, hey, let's do this. I need to make this move now.
Yeah, so you are probably acutely aware of the everyday rigor it takes to build a following and an audience on social media. And so we are still going to continue to do this, but distribution is the name of the game in this current media climate. And The Root has a massive audience and it has a loyal audience. And so when the opportunity became available to purchase it, it seemed like a perfect opportunity for Watering Hole to partner with them. Now, The Root is a little different than the work we do at Watering Hole. To date, Watering Hole has only been video first, and The Root is primarily a written publication. And we will continue to keep it written, but we also want to bring our video expertise to The Root so that we can meet our audience where they are, whether we're covering politics, whether we're covering entertainment, whether we're covering sports. This distribution platform, this reliable source for Black people was so important to bring back into Black ownership, particularly in this moment in our country's history that we just couldn't let this opportunity pass us by.
You talk about publication. Listen, initially it was very erudite, very, very highbrow, if you will. Then all of a sudden it began to shift and have different swings depending upon who was the editor. At some points, a lot of focus on entertainment and culture, things along those lines. What is going to be your focus? If you're talking about what lane are you going to occupy, if you will, what will the route be?
So, we always talk about Black people not being a monolith. So we need more than just the publication, The Root, to service Black people to get the news. But we definitely will be reporting on the news of the day and how it impacts Black people, how people should be making sense of the moment, whether it is in politics or whether it is in pop culture. We will continue to cover entertainment, but it will also, we're going to root it in facts, we're going to root it in science, we're going to root it in data, and we're going to present it so Black people have a trusted publication that they can go to. But here's the thing that I think you probably would agree with is that The Root is not just for Black people. Black people set culture in American culture. And so all Americans and people across the globe should be looking at The Root as an outlet to really get a sense of what is happening in this country politically and culturally.
Again, acquisition is one thing, operating is another. So first and foremost, when do you officially take it over? And then how do you then now rebuild? Because listen, when this private equity company owned it, they owned a bunch of other different sites. They were slashing and burning, stuff was being cut. And so what there is there, in terms of like right now, how many staffers does The Root have, and how are you looking to build and grow that? Obviously, while you also have to build and grow revenue because you got to manage the outflow based upon what the inflow is.
Yeah, so I've been spending 20 years of my career usually in the back end of operations, making sure that the infrastructure of anything we build is strong, because the worst thing you can do is take something over, expand it too quickly, and then have to get rid of a bunch of folks. We right now have a handful of staff on there that are committed and dedicated to The Root, and we wanted to make sure they're Black journalists, and we wanted to make sure in this era that they kept their jobs. And so they are still on our team and we are working with them day to day. We currently own it. But we also want to learn our audience. I don't want to make any assumptions that I know something about The Root that I don't, and I've only owned it for a week. So we're studying our audience. We're going to be asking them questions. What do they want to hear about? What do they want us to cover? And we hope to grow. We hope to expand the amount of folks, whether it be through freelancers or adding additional staff, so we can cover the complexity of all the things that are happening in Black America and in this country. So we have a scaled approach that we're not going to grow too fast, but we will grow. And, 2026 is coming up. We have elections this fall that are coming up, but then 2028 is going to be coming up too. And we're thinking about how we scale properly to sustain it while also building the revenue. And one thing that I'm really passionate about, and I think is really important, is that just because you run a business, the business decisions don't need to impact the editorial decisions. We are going to make sure that our business decisions are not determining the stories that we're covering or the way we cover it. We are going to speak truth to power while still building a sustainable, profitable business.
Questions from panel. Rebecca, you first.
Congratulations. I am incredibly proud of you that you had the audaciousness to say, you know what, I'm going to go buy this thing and I'm going to return it to Black ownership. And I think that's fantastic. There's many of us who, I didn't even think about the possibility of something like that. So I applaud you. I hear what you're saying about having a global reach and a global impact. But who's your target audience in terms of demographic, but including the generational reach that you're looking for?
Absolutely. So as I was exploring whether or not and first, thank you, Rebecca. I really appreciate that. It did take a lot of nerve, but I also want to give Roland a shout out. I told him this. He was one of the first people I told about the acquisition. And he said something to me when we were at Essence Fest this past summer about focusing on something and doing it really, really well. And literally when I left Essence Fest, this opportunity came about. And so I really narrowed my lens and really figured out this is what I want to do and this is what I want to scale. So in terms of our target audience, again, Black people are a monolith. Right now, our average reader is between 30 to 50 years old, and we want to continue and maintain that base. But we also know that we have a lot of opportunity. Black people over-index on social media and digital properties. And so we think by also bringing video into it, we can hit a younger audience that is interested in a diversity of issues and subjects, from politics to sports, because there's politics in sports as well, right? And then for social economic readers, we think that with video and text, it will have us have a diversity of audience and reach. And then we also want to do collaboration. So maybe there's a Black Star Network collaboration that we can do, because we need to also be supporting one another. I am not going to be successful running this outlet by myself. I need to learn from all the great work that Roland has done to build this, and other people are doing in this moment to build Black media.
Julian.
Congratulations, Sora. I am so extraordinarily proud of you and the work you're doing. I appreciate you so much. I just want to talk to you at some point about direction. Want to lift up, as all the things you said, I haven't heard the word education come out of your mouth. I've heard you talk about socioeconomics and other things. So let's talk education. Roland does a great job covering, especially HBCUs, and that's important. But under this administration, at a time such as this, we're seeing scores going down, our young people being beleaguered. Tell me what the Root will do now about an education beat.
Oh, I love it. Well, first of all, Sora Malvo, you know I love you. You knew me back when I was a little college girl, just with bright eyes, just trying to make my way in Washington, D.C. So thank you for all that you've poured into me. I started my career as a high school special education teacher in Brooklyn, New York. So education is fundamental and important. And I think that education is being impacted by politics right now, but also the types of education that are available from K through 12, as well as post-secondary education. So while I can't commit, I don't want to overcommit to education. Education is essential to having access to growing wealth, to having access to great job opportunities, and it definitely will be a primary focus because education has played such a critical role in my life.
I would say this here: no education beat. Here's what I mean by that. No. This is because this is the piece here. So listen, I ran Tom Jones' BlackAmericaWeb.com. And one of the things that a lot of people do, I've had people approach me and they're like, well, you know, can you cover this? This is what I say. We cover stuff, we center Black people. Now, we're going to cover a lot of stuff. But the problem is that when you start trying to do beats, listen, that's a lot of people. Because now you start talking about business, politics, this, as opposed to, no, we're going to integrate the coverage all in. Because one of the biggest, you talked about it earlier, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make. And I said it when I said inflow and outflow, for the people who don't know what that means, that comes down to expenses and revenue. The greatest failure to most businesses, especially when we talk about media businesses, is that there are people who love the content who don't know jack about the business. And the reality is the business is what drives it. Listen, my whole thing from day one was I didn't want to have 2 great years of Roland Martin Unfiltered and then be able to say, oh man, we had a great 2 years. No, I want to be able to say, we want to get to year 5, 6, 7. We're in the 7th year now. We're actually in our 8th year because we already had our 7th anniversary. But then 10, 15, that's how you actually do it. And so many people I've seen, and I've talked to too many people, they did not focus on the business of the business. They fell in love with the content, expenses, cash was being burned, and I'm sitting there going, you ain't gonna be around if you don't focus on the business. And so you can cover all of these things, in covering a variety of things, but it's just been so mindful of every single penny. And I would dare say the most difficult thing for any entrepreneur is to tell yourself no. Because people say, we should cover this, cover that. No, we can't afford it. No, can't do it right now. The answer is no. And other people are like, well, but and this is what I tell people who are owners, you are an ATM machine. Everybody around you is pulling cash out of you. You're the one who controls how much money gets pulled out. And so That's just so that's why I would say, when that's why I asked the question, what's your lane? Lock and load on lane, and then methodically take it out from there.
I mean, everyone knows this about you, Roland, but that was just a master class. And I think that one of the reasons why I really listened to your advice this summer is because you are doing it, and we can learn from you, and I will be learning from you. And that was the one thing I asked, is for your mentorship, because I don't need to know all the answers. I just need to surround people around me who do have some of the answers and who will give me that advice. And so I appreciate all that you've done to date to help me get to this point. And I'll be calling you, Roland.
Oh, not a problem. I mean, like, I'm more than willing to help. And we talk about being able to have you and your folks on. We do that. I had, the tribe on last week. I've reached out to some other people as well, because what I also, and I've said this a long time, the reality is, when you talk about a Black-owned media collective, there are people who are doing things in different spaces. No one group can do all those things. And so the reality is, if it's like, yo, come on, promote your stuff, I have ProPublica on. And so it's like, hell, if I have them on, I have other people on. And so that has to happen, because we have to build the ecosystem. And then we also, when it comes to the money, go to the table in the aggregate as a collective, because if the root goes in alone, if I go in alone, if someone else goes in alone, now all of a sudden they can isolate us. But when we walk in as a collective, now we're walking in with a much larger audience. And listen, we can figure out how to divvy up the money. But the whole thing is, we know the political ad money. We know these ad industry, they want to screw us. Black-owned media gets 0.5 to 1% of the $350 billion spent every year on advertising. The federal government spends $1 billion a year on advertising. Black-owned media gets 1%. And so I've been riding this thing for a very long time, because this is one of the reasons why Black-owned media has not been able to have sustained growth, and why it's been ups and downs and folks have been dying. And listen, it's one thing to go out, to go get investment money, and people say, hey, I want to, get an equity stake. That's fine. That means nothing if I can't grow the business. And that's right. And I tell folk, no, I need contracts. I don't need access to capital. The capital I need are actual contracts, ad contracts, because that's how we can build and grow. And so that's just sort of just where we are. And so I think you're absolutely smart, studying the business, understanding the business side of it, and methodically doing the content side is all that's important. So that's just sort of where we have to be in doing this, because, and I tell people, I am absolutely scared to death. And I tell people, because we are moving towards a place where Black-owned media simply is withering on the vine. And people think, oh, yeah, Roland, you say that. I'm like, no, you do not. We will rue the day when we are having to beg somebody to cover our story.
Yes.
And that's absolutely scary. So
that's why we made this move. It is. And you said about saying no is, it's not personal. Sometimes you really do have to say no, because you want sustainability. You don't want a one-hit wonder. And so it would be criminal to have bought this property and not run it for sustainability, but also for success. So thank you. You were one of the first people to put it out when we announced that. I really appreciate you sharing the news and, the future partnership we can have.
Absolutely. So Ashley, again, congratulations. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
And look forward to the future growth.
Thank you so much, Ro.
All right. Thanks a bunch. To the folks who watch this, I want y'all to go to I think this is it. Yeah, it is. So go to my iPad. So y'all see this here? It's called the recount. I want y'all to listen. I talked about this on the show before. So John Heilerman and another guy, they founded the Recount. And the Recount, y'all, raised $32 million. They raised $32 million. They launched the same year that I did. And what was interesting is that they closed up shop. They pretty much shut down December 2022. And well, the trip is, you know what they said? They couldn't figure out a business plan. And I'm like, how in the hell did you raise $32 million and you could not figure out your business plan? And so, look at this here, y'all. I'll pull this story up. This is from March 2020. The recount raises $13 million in Series A round. Founders, John Heilemann, John Batelli, okay, went out and raised this money and all this sort of stuff like that, and all these things they're doing. And look at this. Who gave them the money? True Ventures and Viacom CBS and Berta Principal Investments, division of Hubert Berta Media, and the money's going to be used to produce new programming and all this sort of stuff. It's going towards making sure the recount builds strong enough infrastructure to be able to deploy video across multiple distribution platforms. And look, investors who participated in recount seed round: Kevin Durant's 35 Ventures, Ron Conway's SB Angel, and Robert Wolf's 32 Ventures. Look at this. The recount staff of 20 people, mostly journalists. Look at this here. They were in talks with dozens of distribution channels and tech companies like Google and Amazon, and smart TV companies like Samsung and Roku, streaming TV companies like Fubo TV and Quibi, and all this sort of. The company makes money from licensing its content as well as ad revenue splits with some distribution partners and sponsorships. Oh, look at this here. Bank of America and Slack were the company's launch partners. Y'all, that was March 2020. This is December 1st, 2022. Same publication, Axios. The recount plans to suspend operations. Y'all, they raised $34 million. But y'all see this here? They struggled to find a profitable business model. Now, y'all know what's amazing? Y'all know what's amazing? See, I'm going to go ahead and call. Now that I saw that, I'm going to call them again. Y'all know I've had conversations with Bank of America. Has Bank of America ever advertised with us? Nope. Nope. So Bank of America, I just want y'all to understand here. Bank of America and Slack advertised with a startup digital property that had no track record, that had no following, and that after they raised $34 million, they could not figure out what their business plan is. But see, we launched in 2018, just like they did. September 4th, 2018. They were never profitable. Do you know when we became profitable? March 2020. We've been profitable ever since. Now, let me help y'all out. Profitable doesn't mean, oh my God, you're bringing in 20, 30, 30, 40 million extra. No, profitable means is you made more money than you spent. That means you in the black, not in the red. Okay? In the black. I like being in the black. Being black in the black and not in the red. But here's the point that I'm making for y'all. See, white media companies like this, because they went out and got these big investors, a Bank of America would give them advertising money. Right now, I've done a pilot for a business show. I would love for Bank of America to say, we're going to be the year sponsor of your business show. Here's $2 million. $2 million, y'all. We could produce that weekly business show, 45 to 48 episodes a year. Yeah, we can do that. But see, this is the reality what black-owned media has to deal with. That a recount could raise $34 million And matter of fact, I don't know, Kevin Durant, I don't know who at your investment firm, I don't know what they were doing, but I could have told them that ain't smart. And do y'all know what they had at the end? All they had left, all they had as an asset at the end, y'all, was a Twitter account. And let me help y'all out. They had a Twitter account of about 300,000 followers. They were purchased by pennies on the dollar in January 2023. In 2 years, all they added was some 20,000 Twitter followers. That's it. So I hope y'all watching, y'all understand what we in Black-owned media have to deal with. I hope y'all understand the hoops that we have to jump through. I hope y'all understand when we go talk to the pharmaceutical companies that market a lot of drugs to Black people, and y'all see they ads on ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. When you were talking about financial institutions, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and I've talked to all three of them, nothing happened. When we talk about the ad agencies, Omnicom, we start talking about Group M. Group M has given us the runaround for 4 years. Awful. Even when they had a Black CEO, we got zero from Group M. Horizon, all these agencies, nothing. And then y'all wonder, man, I don't understand. Why they can't have this? Why can't they have that? Because we get frozen out of the money. So it's one thing to launch a Black-owned media product. It's one thing to purchase a Black-owned media product. But the question is, how do you stay in business? And make matters worse, in this anti-DEI world, I'm telling y'all right now, I know a number of Black-owned media companies that are gasping for breath because DEI dollars. Let me be real clear, y'all. I need y'all to hear what I'm telling y'all. They were not getting advertising dollars. They were getting DEI dollars. And so let me explain to y'all what that means. When I ran the Dallas Weekly, the late Jim Washington was the publisher. God rest his soul. And we were sitting there talking, and Jim said to me, he said, Mr. Martin, why are you always trying to put my friends out of business? I said, Jim, because it's very simple. Dallas is not big enough for 7 Black newspapers. We need consolidation, Jim. I said, here's the problem, Jim. You're not getting advertising dollars. He says, what do you mean? I said, Jim, you're getting community relation dollars. I said, they're taking $12,000. They're taking $12,000, and they are giving you a piece, the Dallas Examiner a piece, the Dallas Post-Tribune a piece, Elite News a piece, Minority Opportunity News a piece. I went down the whole line. Levita a piece. I said, but that's community relation dollars. That ain't advertising dollars. I'll give you an example. My frat brother Todd Brown, when he was running Ebony, that's what he told me. Ebony was getting I'm about to mess y'all up. Ebony was getting $20,000 for a full-page ad. Esquire, which was smaller than Ebony, was getting $200,000 for the exact same full-page ad. You may say, well, hold up, Ebony? Ebony? Yes, because the white ad firms and the white-run Fortune 500 companies, they actually value a white consumer more than they do a Black consumer. I'm about to mess y'all up even further. See, this actually turned into our Where's Our Money segment. I'm about to mess y'all up even further. Read Brett Pulley's book, The $1 Billion Bet, the unauthorized biography of Bob Johnson and BET. In that book, Brett Pulley wrote that when Viacom, now Skydance Paramount, when Viacom, owned by Sumner Redstone, run by Mel Karmazin, when they were negotiating to buy BET, which they did for $2.8 billion, it was $2.4 billion in the assumption of $400 million in debt, they looked at BET's books and they discovered that BET, which had similar ratings and was in the similar cable homes, similar distribution as MTV, that BET was getting $1,500 for a commercial spot, and MTV was getting $8,000 for the same commercial spot. Let me repeat that. BET was getting $1,500 for a spot, 30 or 60 seconds, I can't remember. MTV was getting $8,000 for the same spot. Because, see, they valued MTV's white viewers more than they valued BET. So that's what we call in the media business the black tax. So there's a 60 to 65% black tax, meaning if you're black, they're going to give you 60 to 65% less than they're going to get white people. Now, I'm about to really mess y'all up. Now, I want y'all to hear what I just told y'all. BET was getting $1,500. MTV was getting $8,000. So that means a $6,500 difference. Y'all, that's huge. Now, what happened? Bob and Sheila Johnson, who own BET, sold BET for $2.8 billion. Bob and Sheila Johnson, John Malone was one of the top investors. So Bob and Sheila Johnson, they got the majority of the money. John Malone made a whole bunch of money as well. So I think they got 1.3, 1.4, whatever the number was. He got like $1 billion. That's how the money got. And then you had some people, there was some people who owned some equity stake because BET was private. They went public. And then Bob Johnson took them back private. Okay, so that's what happened there. So here's what was crazy. I'm about to mess y'all up. A lot of y'all have been mad that Bob and Sheila Johnson sold BET. A lot of y'all been cussing, yelling, and hollering. Well, guess what? They took their own money and built BET, and they took that money, and they've now been able to buy a whole bunch of other stuff with the money from BET, and so they actually own more companies and have more people who they employ now than when they had BET. But here's what I'm about to mess y'all up. If Bob and Sheila Johnson had gotten fair value for BET's ads, Bob and Sheila Johnson could have sold BET for the same $2.8 billion, but only sold a third of BET, and they could still be owning it. I'm gonna let that sit with y'all for a second. Bob and Sheila Johnson had a black tax not been slapped on them, Bob and Sheila Johnson could have sold BET for $2.8 billion. They could have sold a third of BET. They could have kept 2/3, meaning BET's value really should have been not almost $3 billion, but BET's value should have been $9 or $10 billion. So if there was no black tax, BET would still be black owned, and they would have made the same amount of money and would have been able to buy all the stuff that they bought and still own BET. But because of the black tax, they couldn't. So when these Simple Simon Negroes are yelling, you got $350,000 from the Kamala campaign for advertising. But y'all didn't ask, where did the other $1 billion go? Y'all didn't ask, wait a minute, how much money went through all these white ad agencies, and did any money go through a black ad agency? 2 small amounts of money. Y'all ain't listening. So the Simple Simon Negroes were yelling, you got $350,000 from the Kamala campaign. And by the way, the only reason y'all even know how much I got is because I told the Kamala campaign that they white ad agencies can go to hell because they were lowballing me for ads. I said, y'all gonna pay me direct. I knew it was gonna show up in a FEC filing. I knew that, but I didn't give a damn. I was not gonna be shortchanged by the white agency. And in fact, it was supposed to have been at least 700,000. And they played around in the last 45 days and didn't come through. Because the 350 really was June through September. See, y'all ain't listening to me. So when we talk about black-owned media, and y'all wondering why we don't have 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 people, y'all wondering why, well, man, if I go get a job there, I don't have health benefits and dental, I don't have 401k and retirement, because we literally can't afford it. I'm just being straight up with y'all. Y'all need to understand what's going on here. When we are frozen out of the advertising dollars, you can't build and grow. So you can go out and raise money. You can go out and you can get private equity. You can get venture capital. That don't mean nothing if you cannot build your business on the advertising side. And so when y'all hear, and it's the last point I make before I go to Julian and Rebecca. So when y'all see me post, when we are calling out brands for not advertising with us, Pepsi, when y'all see us calling out brands, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Clorox, products that black people are buying, when y'all see us doing that, I'm gonna need y'all to respond the same way y'all do if I post some shit about LeBron, Michael Jordan, Beyonce, or Tyrese, or something, entertainment and sports. Because see, if they look up and they see, oh, damn, this thing did 40,000 likes. Oh my God, that post had 5,000 comments. They gonna do the math. But see, when you only have 20 or 30 likes and 5 or 6 comments, you know what they say? Oh, we ain't worried about that. We ain't worried about that. We good. Somebody in the chat just said F, Pepsi, BOA, Clorox, and Wells Fargo. Now, if you see how much money we spend with them, y'all need to understand, black people, oh man, we are some amazing consumers. But Dr. King said on April 3rd, 1968, in his last sermon at Mason Temple in Memphis, he said, black people individually are poor, collectively represent one of the largest economies in the world. We must move as a collective and to achieve action. Black-owned media can only survive if we move as a collective in demanding our fair share of dollars. And if there are companies and these represented by these ad agencies that refuse to spend money with black-owned media, then we will come back and tell our black audience that they will not spend money with us and we should not spend money with them. That is the only way this is going to change. Julian, you first.
First of all, Roland, thank you for that sermon and that reminder of how black-owned media thrives and for calling out these companies that do not support us. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about what would happen if black people just stopped spending money. And we just said, you know, you got to eat, et cetera. But for a day, a week, whatever, they need to understand the power of our collective. And they don't understand it, or they do understand it, but they dismiss it because we allowed it. The best number you gave me in that conversation was the 1,500 for BET ads and 8,000 for was MTV ads. That multiplier. And that's a multiplier that black people deal with every single day. We deal with a multiplier of getting less, but being required to do more. And so everybody who is listening needs to do about a couple of things. Number one, Stack your money. A recession is coming. Stack your money and don't buy this frivolous BS that these folks are pushing on you, pushing on you, pushing on you. Number two, what are you doing? Susan Taylor used to always say to people, what are you doing with your people? That would be how she often opened a conversation. I will ask you that. What are you doing with your people? And what are you doing if you're watching with, to, for, and about Roland Martin Unfiltered? And I'm not saying this because I'm sitting here. You know, Roland and I, we go back. But I would say this because this brother brilliantly has created something out of nothing, you know, taking straw and turning it into bricks. And the question for y'all is, what are you doing about it? It's just so important right now, especially at a time like this. Sister Ashley, what she's doing with the Root, at a time like this, we need to be informed. You're not going to get your news on CNN and whatever else. We're certainly not going to get it on Fox. This is a call to action, folks.
Yep.
It's a serious call to action.
Rebecca.
We talk about this for years. We're in a fight for our community, and we're in a fight to make this country live up to its promise to us. So that said, all of us have our parts. So for those who don't have the disposable income, like, subscribe, share, let people know to watch the show. Your eyeballs and comments matter. For those who have discretionary budgets, if you cut the cord on Hulu, on Disney, and now you have extra $10, $15 a month to give, then you can subscribe and become a member of the Bring the Funk Club. There's all sorts of ways that all of us can be a part of the solution here. And finally, Dr. King said something. He said that budgets are moral documents. So shame on those companies who have decided that their ethos of their company doesn't include supporting and investing in Black interests.
And again, folks, here's the whole deal. No one, no political ad buyer, no ad agency can say that, well, we don't have the numbers. Oh, we do. Oh, we do. And we're about to hit almost 2 million YouTube subscribers. We've been doing that, and I'm gonna show you here, right here. Give me 1 second, because it came out today. My guy Keenan hit me with it, and y'all know, every week YouTube shows their top podcast, and shows you what the numbers are. Go to my iPad, and so this is for the week of September 29th, October 5th. This is the most popular podcast shows on YouTube. And when you see here, when you look at those folks who are African American, guess what? You see right there, you're gonna see here Nightcap with Shannon and Ocho. You're gonna see this conservative dude. You're gonna see Club Shay Shay. You're gonna keep going here, and all of a sudden, right there, number 51. The highest we've ever been was 40. Number 51. So no one can say we don't have the audience. We don't have the audience, don't have the numbers, don't have the reach, everything you need. And so here's the thing right here. I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all these here. And I want y'all to understand what I'm about to tell y'all. And I'm about to call their names specifically. And I'm gonna add one more, because I think Group M is under one of these here. Let me see who owns Group M. Give me 1 second. And because Group M has been the most egregious because they've done nothing with us. So WPP owns Group M. So go to my iPad. These are the 5 largest ad agency holding companies in the world. WPP, that's formerly Group M, okay? Publicis Group, Omnicom Group, Interpublic Group of Companies, IPG, Dentsu Group. I want all y'all to understand, since we launched this show, now go back, since we launched this show, we have met with WPP, Group M, numerous times. I got all the emails. They know me well. We met with Publicis Group many times. My team has met with Omnicom. We met with Interpublic Group of Companies. We met with Dentsu. Y'all don't want me to start calling names of execs at these 5 companies. I'll show y'all emails. In the 7 years of Roland Martin Unfiltered, in the 4 years of Black Star Network, in the 7 years of Roland Martin Unfiltered, And in the 4 years of Black Star Network, go back to my iPad, these 5 agencies representing billions of dollars in major companies, not 1 cent. After all of the meetings, the emails, the presentations, I've flown to New York. My guys at Urban Edge Network has flown there. WPP, formerly Group M, Publicis Group, Omnicom Group, Interpublic Group of Companies, Dentsu Group. Not 1 penny spent. General Motors falls under Dentsu. I negotiated that deal directly with General Motors. Coca-Cola, directly with Coca-Cola. The companies that you have seen us do stuff with, we did direct deals with those companies. These 5 agencies have frozen us out of the business. And the only way the Root is going to survive, and the Tribe, and the other Black-owned media outlets, and there's some things they do. Some dollars are going to Urban One. Some stuff is going to Black Enterprise, going to Essence for the music festival. And they wanted to force all of us to go through Group M, one black company, but they didn't tell the LGBTQ folks to go to Group Pink. They didn't tell the white-owned media companies to go to Group White. They didn't tell Latinos to go to Group Brown, but they wanted to force black people to go through one ad agency who was trying to charge us outrageous fees to get ads. We said, hell no. And now they suing each other. But I want y'all to understand, we will never be able to thrive. Because right now, Black-owned media is surviving. We will never be able to thrive as long as these companies are freezing us out of the money. I'm going to show y'all one last time. And I'm calling them out by name. And I'm telling y'all right now, come on, go. I'm telling y'all right now, to the executives at WPP Group M, and Publicis Group, and Omnicom Group, and Interpublic Group of Companies, IPG, and Dentsu Group, we're right now in the 4th quarter of 2025. If these companies leave us out of their 2026 budgets, I'm going to start naming the people who we have been emailing and meeting with, and I'm going to show you their photos because they are the ones who have been freezing us and other Black-owned media out of the money. That is not a threat, it's a promise. Because I'm sick and tired of meetings. I'm sick and tired of them just stringing us along, another meeting. No. We will not be able to build and grow. I have the plan, y'all. I have the plan right now. Do y'all know that if we got $5 million in advertising a year, we would have 40 additional people hired? I have the plan already. We would have people placed in 7 cities across the country, being able to cover more stuff, being able to have more footprint. We've done a whole lot with little. But we've proven